Episode 21. Welcome. Now, 21 years old, that means you're old enough to drink now, so I'm going straight to the water. I'm going straight to the hard stuff. Oz, how you doing, man?
I'm tired, but I'm excited. 2014 had me worn out. I was laying stretched out before this episode trying to get my energy back. But I'm here, back from Modeloff in New York. A lot of cool things happening. And Jordan.
Oh, I am doing great. Now, I'm going a little casual tonight, and that's because it's 30 degrees outside, and I'm in my basement, and it is so cold down here, but that is how it is in Ohio. And to you, Nick?
Hi guys. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm actually in Medellin, Colombia, which you can probably see behind me. Just this little hotel I'm at. Tried to theme up the room a little bit. Yeah, I look forward to talking about Echo XL, which I released pretty recently. Thanks.
Great.
Welcome, Nick. So, season 2. Bet you didn't think that was going to happen. But here we are. Tonight is brought to you by Memphis Hilton Hotels and Dasani Bottled Water. So how about that? That's season 2 for you. Sorry about it. But next up, Jordan is the challenge.
Okay, so I'm going to take it away. Now, we did have our challenge question from last year. I'm actually going to just hold off on that question. We're going to start fresh this year. We didn't have a whole lot of responses, and maybe that was because it was last year near the holidays. So I think we're going to start fresh, and we're going to start with an easy one. Now, the prize is going to be the same. Instead of doing I was going to send a printed book before, but it's actually probably easier because we have such a wide audience internationally to send a ebook. Okay, so let me just jump to our challenge. This is actually a very easy question, but it's one that you all should know. So let's do the screen share. It's a very easy question. So few words. How old is Excel? Now, what I'm looking for are years. I suppose you could answer in nanoseconds, but I'm not going to look that up, so I won't be able to verify that answer. And if you think you know the answer, we're going to post a question later this week, hopefully tomorrow, to our Facebook, and of course we're going to have it on Twitter and on Excel.tv. Now, you can post your answer there, or alternatively, you can rent a Skywriter and you can write option explicit rules over Bill Jellen's house. In fact, that is, I think, whoever does that will get the right answer. I can guarantee you a ebook of my phenomenal new book. It actually has 5 stars on Amazon. It was John Campora who wrote that 5 stars, and I did pay him well for it, but it was very well written. So answer that question. You'll win a PDF of my book, and it will be up on our Facebook and our different media sites later this week. So back to you, Rick.
John Campora, you're a good man. You got one now. Is that right?
I didn't really pay him. I just want to make that clear because I don't want to sully his good name. You can ruin my good name, but he's.
Something you got me curious about when you mentioned nanoseconds, about going into Excel and using the convert function to see what those nanoseconds would look like.
That is you thought way more into that than I have, so sounds like you're the winner.
One more thing, John Campora, Oz has a book coming out pretty soon, so get those Amazon write-ups ready.
That's right.
But this week, we have a special guest. Our special guest, as you heard a little bit earlier, Nick Green of Echo Excel, all the way from Colombia, by way of Australia, I believe. So, Nick, welcome to the show. Would you mind starting off just telling everybody a little bit about your Excel background, or your background in general?
Yeah, sure, Rick. Yeah, so I got introduced to Excel when I fell into supply chain industry after university. I didn't learn much Excel studying business at university, which is a bit funny because I use it probably 50% of my work, or I have since. Yeah, so supply chain is quite a chaotic industry, so chaos just means people tend to use Excel a lot. So I was really forced to self-learn. I wish probably I'd studied more formally for something like VBA, or Visual Basic. That's something that yeah, it would have saved me a lot of headache. It's something you can, if you don't have the structure for that right, you pay for it later. Yeah, so that's my background basically.
Could you explain a little bit about the name Echo Excel? Kind of where did that come from, and what is your site? Where did that name come from?
Sure. So Echo Excel is a forecasting tool. So when I think of forecasting, I thought of I tend to think of echoes because you know, the further away you look, the more the softer your signal your certainty is. Much like an echo, I suppose. And it was short. Yeah, so it's a forecasting tool. There is a lot of forecasting software I've used. I've been a demand planner, so that was the main purpose of my job in the past, and I felt those tools were really built for or by statisticians for statisticians, so they'll always have their place, but there were just so many people who had to do forecasting, were intimidated by these tools, so I just wanted to make something that got them 98% of the way, but with complete simplicity. So much could be automated and simplified in the process. So yeah, that's what Echo Excel tries to do.
What are your thoughts, Oz?
I'm curious about how do you get from chaotic to meaning that people use Excel a lot?
Well, because a lot of these companies would have you know, multi-million-dollar streamlined software. I think one reason why Excel is still just so popular among users and not as much so among planners and managers is because people overrate or they underestimate the need for flexibility. All these businesses have little quirks that they need to constantly adapt to. The speed of business is getting faster, so Excel's actually becoming more relevant. And yeah, so that's supply chain especially is like that.
What's an example of how something could change fast in supply chain?
Right, so for example, I worked for a company called Aesop, which is a cosmetics retail company. I had to forecast all their sales and make sure all of their inventory, all their stock was in the right locations across the world. And each of those countries had their own little, their own quirks. They'd need inventory that didn't relate to sales. They'd have some big event to plan, and I would have to, you know, software that's just rigid wouldn't cater to that. So I and you know, many others, they just have to try to build similar software with Excel. But I've just been amazed there isn't really much out there with Excel forecasting tools in general. So I'm just trying to fill that void a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Go ahead, Jordan.
when you built your tool, I know we had talked. You had a version that has no VBA in it, and I think you also, and I could be wrong on this, you have a version that does have a VBA. So the no VBA is kind of like a thin client. It's more lightweight. Can you speak to, you know, what advantages are there to taking VBA out of it, and did you even want to?
Sure.
Or were you forced into it?
Well, actually, the first version I sent to you, I'm not sure if it even worked. Just a beta version. That was VBA. So I initially started all Visual Basic. I went crazy I tried to make it work like an application. As soon as you launched the workbook, all of the ribbons would automatically hide, stuff like that. But I just found that when I sent it to people, they would have niggling problems setting it up. It would, you send it to a friend in a consulting company, and it wouldn't get through the firewall, and you just couldn't use it. And you know, if you're sending it to friends, it's okay, but if you're sending it to customers, they're going to get impatient and give up. So I wanted to make something completely stable, and I also just like the fact if you work with the constraints, if you try to use little VBA to start with. So if you're making a template yourself, perhaps make the goal to use no VBA, because what's embedded in Excel won't break. Then I think that's a good place to start. So I started with Echo Lite. I will be making a more advanced Pro VBA version for you know, for organizations, but that will yeah, that definitely needs VBA. That's much more heavy duty.
So
Yeah. Go ahead, Oz.
No, it was Jordan.
that was me. So, because the thing is, I used to love VBA, and I mean, I still love VBA, but all my solutions were very VBA heavy. And then over time, as I learned more formula tricks, I've sort of come to not. It's not that I dislike VBA; it's that I almost feel like it's overused. So, in a certain sense, less is more. I found that you could do a lot with formulas that was very speedy and very efficient, and you didn't have to hit a run button. And people probably don't know this, but I hate having to hit a run button. So I really liked having formulas, and I know they're sometimes harder for folks to understand, whereas VBA is very linear. You can go in and look it up, and you can add comments. But I really feel like the future for me in development, and I hope for the future for a lot of other developers, is really more towards doing as much in Excel and the formulas, like you said. You can't break the functions that have already been tested. Because I think it makes a lot lighter weight clients. I know that's like a really computery term, but it really makes a lighter and tighter Excel application.
Well,
anyone agree with me? Anyone going to disagree?
I will add, and this is something that a blog post I wrote a long time ago. You know, 6 reading in, some people got on my case, and I was really saying be careful. And one point I was making was, even if you've got some big, nasty, complicated formula, you're more likely to find somebody who can help you figure it out. But if you have to go off into VBA, you're going to have a tougher time with somebody figuring that out. And when you get into writing code, a person may be more likely to say, I don't even want to figure this out. Let's start from scratch, meet this, and I'll write code the way I write code, rather than trying to get in somebody else's head. So formulas are really good for those reasons, and I try to stick with formulas myself.
Yeah, I see some irony in this, though, Jordan. I think this would be probably Bill Jellen's favorite day, that a guy who owns the website Option Explicit VBA thinks, quote, VBA is over.
I know. I know. Well, I've evolved. Fair enough. I can't argue with that. I know.
Well, we have to be have room for evolving, or else you wind up playing gotcha like politicians, and some 60-year-old guy is answering for something he did when he was 19. That's gotcha politics.
He's got more information now. So, next question for you. Could you discuss a little bit? As I looked at your product, you use quite a few forecasting methods in there. Would you mind discussing those and how you integrated those into Excel?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so there's 4 forecasting formulas, but the main, or the most important one is called Holt-Winters forecasting, which I think Jordan's familiar with, and it's basically it's otherwise called triple exponential smoothing. So you have to run all these formulas in the background. You can't you hide them away from the end user, because it really does become pretty complex. You've got different rows to try to forecast. You're basically separately forecasting your trend and seasonality, and what's called alpha or level of a forecast, and behind that, it's a little bit hard to explain, but you've got all these variables that basically determine how far back that forecast will look, whether it looks at the last, gives more weight to the last few months or the last few years. So how I did that is I just did everything in a processing sheet, and you can go to VBA even if you're not enabling macros, and I think there's a property section you can go to very hidden and completely hide the sheet so people are none the wiser. I find things just less breakable if you just hide them away like that. And yeah, so it just took a lot of headache and trial and error, but I integrated them eventually.
That's great. And then you did talk a little bit earlier about part of the development process, right? And that
Sure.
part was, okay, I built things in VBA, and then I sent it to people, and I realized, wow, that was a problem. And so, and John Peltier talked about this quite a bit, where first you build something for yourself, and then you build something for your friends, and there's a growth in that. And then, as you send it out to other people, you run into kind of a further level of development. Could you talk about the steps that led up to that? As you're a person, sitting in a room somewhere, and you decide, you know what, I'm going to build something, and I'm going to try to create this product. What did that development kind of process look like for you? For the benefit of our viewers who may want to develop Excel applications themselves. What did you go through?
Yeah.
What did you find successful?
Yeah, sure. Well, probably like most of your viewers, I built applications for myself and close colleagues. Like you say, that's just completely different when you have to build it at scale for people that you don't know. Then you can't hold their hand through using the template or whatever it is you're building. So the difference is you really have to think about user interface design or user experience, they sometimes call it. And yeah, you've got to imagine what the lazy, impatient user is going to think, almost like when you're writing an article or something. People using something for the first time, they just want it to not be annoying and do what they expect it to do. So you need to simplify. You need to, like, I added so many features, and then I had to keep asking myself, is the benefit of this feature really worth the extra weight, the extra complexity it adds to the interface? And
what's an example?
often I had to trash so many ideas or so many features that I'd spent 2 days building. So I think that's sorry.
So what's an example of something you had to think about? Is this really worth having, though it's a good idea?
Sure. So I initially built it with more tabs and would allow the user to control everything, control if they wanted to put in their own custom seasonality. They wanted more weight given to last Christmas, December's sales or something. They could do that. But it was really, the benefit of doing that was just so small versus the learning curve that you're introducing to the user. It's quite confusing to initially look at. So I just thought, you know what, even though I'm attached to this, I put my sweat into it. I have to be honest with myself and just scrap it.
Yeah.
Oz, you have a question?
No,
actually, I have a question. So just for our viewers, Nick, if you would, because when we're talking forecasting for our less statistically minded viewers, so we're not just talking like a weather forecast. Can you just give a little information in your world what a forecast is, and so people will know what you can use the tool for?
Yeah, sure. So there's two kinds of forecasts, at least in business, or demand forecasting. Finance people, engineers will have to forecast to predict the sales of a product, say, and it's often the main one I'm referring to is historical forecasting. because you're taking, you're looking back at historical, the trends and the seasonal flows. So a typical consumer product would have this consistent trend of being popular and selling a lot in Christmas, then diving in January, and basically, rather than relying on people's guesswork, you can use statistics to more rationally try to detect those things and stretch the data or extrapolate the data into the future.
Gotcha.
Does that explain? Does that answer your question? So it can be hard to explain.
Right. No, I know. No, I think that answers our question. It's you're using historical data to make guesses about the future, and I guess the different methods you have in your tool is trying to account for let's say there's trends at certain points or there's certain cycles that happen. So it's looking at the past and saying, well, if we know what the past looks like and we know where it's going, we can get a pretty good guess about the future.
Sure, and it is guessing, as you say, but it's trying to come up with the best or the least worst guess. Yeah.
I think that fits in pretty well with our topic of the week. So, Jordan, would you mind kicking us off?
Sure. So, it's usually my job to come up with the topics, but Oz sent out this great topic, so I'm actually going to send it over to Oz, who's going to be the special guest opener this week.
All right. Well, I will catch that you're sending over here, and thanks a lot. So, tools, people, and processes have been on my mind lately. It's shown up in projects, and then when I was reading Nick's website, it was talking about tools that are built with incremental improvements in mind versus reliability, flexibility. I'm curious about our experience with tools, processes, and people. And Nick, why was this important to you? Why not focus a tool that would give more than incremental improvement and not be concerned about these other things?
Yeah, sure. Just having to use the software that was out there. Yeah, I guess I can't name them, but they were, like I said, by statisticians for statisticians, and the pure goal of those pieces of software seemed to be accuracy, which seems to make sense. But you get at a certain point, you get diminishing returns. So you can actually get 95 or higher % of the benefit of that accuracy without needing all of the features and junk that they load onto the software. Yeah, so I think you need to sort of make your goal not only, you can't be a perfectionist at one thing, you need to also think of user experience, yeah, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is important. Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Go ahead, Oz.
Well, this has shown up so much in my professional life, dealing with data and Excel as the primary tool, and seeing where something is wrong. Sometimes it's the process, sometimes it's the people, and then sometimes it's the tool. And being able to separate that apart. And one thing that I have liked about Excel is that it is flexible. And having worked with tools, that then what happens? Business rules change. And then it takes weeks or months to get the tool to adjust. And meanwhile, people have gone rogue and done something in Excel, and then they're doing whatever they're going to do. So it was exciting to me to see that you're looking at the relationship and thinking about what you put people through when you build a tool.
Yeah.
So I do have some thoughts on that actually. Just from I'm like a process improvement professional by trade, and whenever and some people in that trade would say, why would you create something that's less effective, right? Why would you create something that's less effective? And the argument kind of against that, which I would say is, with all of this, what you're trying to do is improve, lessen the number of defects, improve output. So first off, you have to define what is output. What is it that you're trying to solve for? And I would say that what you're trying to solve for in this case isn't necessarily the absolute most accurate forecast.
Right.
You're trying to create something that people will use.
Yeah.
And the defect is that there are so many things that are out there, and I mean, and I'll get past Excel just for a moment here, and then bring it back. Where you have to be a programmer, a SAS programmer, or this or that. You have to know all these extravagant tools, and really, at the end of the day, what is your measure of success? Is your measure of success the most accurate thing? Certainly, there's a small market for that, and it's a very pricey tool that you're selling. Right, but there's a market for that out there, and go and compete against the big boys. I wish you luck. Or is what you're looking to do something? What you're looking to do? Create something for somebody like Nick and his peers, right? Who are looking at those tools, saying, "Wow, this is inefficient. You got 15 things here to select I don't need." So from a process improvement perspective, if they're not needed, not used, get rid of them. They're in the way. Right, and those then become defects. Those become things that are in the way. So I bring that back up just from a process perspective, a process improvement perspective. I think first off, you got to define what is it that you're trying to fix. What is it that you're trying to? And the most accurate system out there ever isn't necessarily what you're trying to fix if people aren't using it.
Right. And man, this has me think about so much. It's like, I went into a restaurant that had data issues. They'd buy food and didn't know where the food went. So now I find out they've got a restaurant-specific tool. But it's restaurant-specific in a way that it tries to deal with all kinds of restaurants. So this expensive thing is, if you can get it working right, it would be great. But if you could get it working right, and it was for like the small corner cafe or the big 5-star restaurant that's in or whatever, and now this one size fits all fits the people who can hire somebody to run the damn thing.
What do you think about that, Jordan?
So, not to go on a big data rant, because I love doing that. But so much of I feel like the solutions that were being sold, it's always tools. It's like rarely people, and it's rarely processes. It's almost always tools.
Jordan, let me interrupt you, because your LinkedIn post is part of all of this conversation too. I'm sorry that I didn't mention that, but yeah, your year-end predictions post was really smart, and I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I feel like, we just have we're just really obsessed with tools right now. We rarely define and solve problems as a problem of people or process. It's always, well, this tool isn't effective to get the job done, therefore we need a better tool, rather than do we actually need to test whether this tool is actually good for the people who are using it. They can understand it. Does it map the process that we're interested in? And just to the capabilities of Nick's tool, and you were talking about accuracy. Businesses are not the Big Hadron Collider at CERN, which needed crazy accuracy to prove that the Higgs boson existed. So we're not at that level. We don't need that level of tools. What we need is something we can use. I see Oz is shaking his head in agreement. But I feel like, Nick, you haven't said a whole lot. So do you want to jump in on any of that?
I I had a question for Nick.
Yeah.
You know, to
Sorry.
jump, and it's when you made the distinction between the managers and the planners versus the people who use the tool. You mentioned that at the top of the show, so you can speak to all of this.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, if you try to, it's interesting. If you walk around an office, you'll see you'll probably see a third to half of computer monitors with Excel going. If you search for an Excel-related article on Harvard Business Review, you'll find I think there's one or two out of over 1,000. So it's something that there is this enormous gap between planners or people who try to map and create this ideal picture, process, or procurement of a business tool, versus the people who actually have to use it and actually see the end result. And the planners often they often usually when software or process is implemented, it's done in a short period, and the people who do that, they don't have to actually follow up and find out that it didn't work, that it wasn't that everything changed, and they actually needed something more flexible. So it's the classic top-down versus bottom-up conundrum, I guess, that we're talking about.
So then, when there's the disconnect and the decider, the directors, they bring in the new fancy tool that people then resist. So then they bring in some change manager to look at the culture and everything and say, "Doggone it, you're gonna use this thing."
Yeah, and look, you do need to. I don't want to just bash
Sure.
top down. You need some degree of top down, because on the other side of things, we all know, like, there's Excel workbooks that have just shared among 12 people in an organization that have become mammoth and chaotic with no plan and thought behind it.
Sure.
So I would like to see more attention to Excel as a genuine, like, people actually treating Excel not as a sort of fire extinguisher, but planning templates and actually putting their top-down thoughts into template design and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
So actually, it's funny because he said Excel is a fire extinguisher, and I was thinking that's an Oz line. But what I was wondering, so now thinking about what it takes to be a good, I don't know what the word is, developer, good user of Excel, someone who makes products for someone else. So whether it's a report for someone else or you're a consultant, could we say, and I just want to hear everyone's opinion on this, is it not enough to just be good at the tool? So you have to understand the underlying process, and you have to understand the people who use it. I mean, how far can you be an expert in those directions? Because there probably is a level that's too far. You're trying to be all things to all people. So I just wanted to hear everyone's thoughts on my ramblings there.
Well, I'm wondering if you can rephrase it so that I can.
Yeah, that's a good question. Sure. You know how many people say that in my life all the time? They're like, can you put that in the form of a question, please? So what I'm wondering is, we can say that it's easy to be on the tool side of this, right? You're good at using Excel, good at VBA, good at formulas, but you also need to be good at knowing the underlying processes, so the domain experience, and do you need to be good at understanding the people who use it? Now, the answer seems so very obviously yes, but I want to caveat that with, if you are trying to do it for all people, then you're going to make a tool for all people, and that's not necessarily a good thing. And if you're too process-oriented, as some engineers are who make stuff in Excel, it's just nuts, it's just really overly complicated stuff. So where is the harmony? And is there something that you do to find that harmony, or
I'll jump in first. Is it good enough to be good at a tool? And let's put personality issues aside and all that sort of stuff. Is it good enough just to be good at a tool? Yes. You're going to be limited, but there are whether it's Excel or pretty much any tool, there are technicians who have a very good career. I could think, shoot, Wozniak. I could think of a lot of people who were just very technology driven, and they found the right people to be able to complement them. To be able to kind of move throughout life, and people needed each other. But even without that, there are certain people who can, certain engineers, certain technicians, who can sit at a desk all day long, crank out stuff, and they'll be the go-to person for something. But let me tell you something. You better be damn good. You better be on your game. You better know your stuff. If you're the go-to guy and nobody wants to rub up against you in the hallway, you know. But I would say that your growth is pretty limited in that direction to a certain point. Now, there are certain technicians who never want to move into management, who never want to kind of do all that sort of stuff, and that's cool. You know, no problem with that. But I think just to play devil's advocate against the answer is obviously yes. I would say the answer is no for a lot of people, and it works okay for them. But I do think that your growth, your career growth, could be limited. And if you're able to put a few other skills together, that's certainly a good thing. What do you think, Oz?
Okay, I got so many thoughts. This could be its own discussion. I'm thinking about sometimes a tool is it's part of their job. It's something that they have to do every Thursday afternoon. Okay, and they just want the steps 1 through 8 to get whatever needs to be done. Okay, so and I've faced that kind of thing. A tool needs to be built, and so is going to run it as part of their job, and that's a different kind of a challenge. Then I really do have to understand who is this person. If they, I come across somebody who says, yeah, okay, they've got pivot tables. They can follow an array formula. Okay, good. So that's a different kind of development that I have to do than the person who does not want to do it at all. They want the steps 1 through 8. And there gets to be a place where I can't build in enough. And the company would run out of money with me trying to build all kind of protections on this thing so that it could just be handed to a person and just run.
Sorry, can I jump in there? Oh, sorry, keep going if you're still going.
The other thing is processes. Where there are established processes and is not too much ad hoc stuff going on around the process, then you can have somebody who just does steps 1 through 8. But if there are no processes, or you're still developing processes, then you can't have that person who wants to paint by numbers, because they're going to have to ask a whole lot of questions and have a lot more understanding so that they can separate the tool isn't working or something in the process isn't working. And they get their butt up off their chair and go deal with it.
Can I just comment on that with, building the sort of software that's completely rote or easy to use. There is a point where if the software is that easy to use, it's probably something that should be automated anyway. So if people aren't being challenged, if you're not making the use of, human judgment versus what an algorithm or a macro could do for them, then that just prompts that we should be actually wiping out people having to do it all together. We should have people using their unique judgment to solve problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Jordan, or Oz.
No, I just said I would agree with that. And each situation, you have to look at what's going on. Are they open to some automation? Can they afford the automation? How
Sure.
big of a problem is it? Do they really want to solve it? So there's so many pieces in this, and we don't have many solutions here. But I think it's a conversation that at least needs to be started, because more money for more tools when you got people who are scared of the tools in the first place. No, it's not going. It's not working.
Sure.
Good. So speaking of, so we talked about the people, process, and tools. Let's go ahead and move on to the tools area then. And Oz, would you mind kicking us off with the tips section?
All right. All right. I'm going to move over here, and we're going to have Excel hot tip. I'm going to right. Let me see. All right. Let's share my screen. Okay. Okay. All right. So this issue came up around doing different types of searches. Right. So if we had a house, and so we had Kate and Ron, whatever, and what they found important in a house. And supposing Kate wanted a fireplace in a certain city and wanted to be, you know, one floor. So we've got all of these different criteria scrolling all over the place, right? And then you can look at, my screen is scrolling really slow. Okay, food and all these different food ingredients, and then pizza, whatever. It could be anything where, making a whole bunch of headers and trying to put X's in would get to be really cumbersome. So I've worked on this where I can deal with this kind of search by putting in whatever, wherever. So I imagine a pizza with up to four ingredients, and how can I figure out which one has, how many times has extra cheese been ordered along with garlic? And it says 3, and I can go all and filter for those 3. And I can even go to which one has neither of those. Okay, so let me clear this filter. So I just want to go over this array formula here that helps to make this happen. This is the heart of how we get to do this kind of search, because we don't want to have 4 slicers, and then have to click extra cheese on all of the 4 slicers, and then you have 20 ingredients and 20 slicers, and then you have to click extra cheese 20 times. So the way this works, I set up these tick boxes so that it's easy to do. And so what I want to do here is equal COUNTIF. I want to highlight this entire range and compare that against the list that's being created over here. And I'm starting an array function of an array formula, and it's not going to work this way because I'm doing this on multiple cells. So I have to do something to bring this down to one result. So I have to do a sum, and then the Control Shift Enter. And now there's my 2. So what's happening is these tick boxes will cause the item to show up over here, creating this list, and then we're counting, so we've got 2 clicked here, and will those same 2 show up somewhere in these rows? But I've pimped it out a little further so that it would show all, not all, so that I could have more information available to me to do the analysis. But that is the array formula that makes this possible. And the thing that tipped me off that I needed an array formula was I'm comparing 2 arrays, and I need to condense them down to 1 value and say, okay, I am in array formula territory. So, okay. That is what I have, and I want to give that, say, 3 srirachas, because not everybody's going to need that. Not everybody's going to need to do that. It's more the thought process that I had to go through, because usually we don't do searches like that. And that was a challenge, because I didn't even know how to look up, what type of search is that I'm trying to do, So there you go, 3 srirachas.
I learned something. Thank you.
What'd you learn?
I don't use a lot of array formulas because if you're using big data, it can be. I've only read that they're a little slower than regular formulas, so I always try to find the regular, but that would probably save me a lot of time. I probably would have had to have built another row or column. Yeah, no, that's really good.
Cool.
Right. Nick, you had a tip as well, correct?
Yeah, sure. I can show something from just from Echo Light, if that's popping up. Can you see it there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if this is. I guess this is obvious, but it just goes back to probably our earlier discussion. We were talking about if you're building something not with VBA, you have to be a bit creative in working with the constraints of just formulas. And so I had to think about here. I wanted to hide advanced options for to make it just cleaner, Echo Light. So if I click here, override forecast, then the advanced options pop up. So of course I've just used conditional formatting to do that. So if you just go conditional formatting and make the rule of the conditional. I'm in a Mac OS X, which I don't know very well. But yeah, if you just make the rule of the conditional formatting to be triggered on whatever value that this hidden cell becomes true or false, then yeah, you can make your templates, if that's what you're building, a lot cleaner without having to use macros. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's think about that, Oz.
I wonder, can you show me this again? Because I didn't really follow what was happening.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, let me go back. Yeah, so currently we've got the advanced options open for the controls of the forecast. If you click on this option, those controls disappear just through using conditional formatting. This is a formula to say if cell Q10 is false, then give me this message. otherwise hide. So yeah, this developer toolbox, just, or toggle switch, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just set up to change true or false in any hidden cell, and then if I can just, I'll see if I can find conditional formatting. Sorry, here we go. This is you're just looking at the Mac version.
It's actually
Which I don't usually use.
It's actually not showing up on your screen, and I can't remember. There's one of these screen share options that make it make those pop-up windows
Like
show or not show.
show entire window.
Is
Okay.
that so? We
The pop-up option's not showing. Okay.
That's right.
Right, you have the entire screen.
Okay.
It depends on whether you're sharing your desktop or sharing Excel.
Let me try to share the pop-up at least. Can you can you see the pop-up?
Yep. Yes.
Yes. Oh, we can very much see it now.
Oh, it's ballooned up. Sure. It's yeah. This is just taking out all borders, color, cell colors, making the text of each cell white, so it appears there's nothing there. It's just a little trick.
I like that.
I love it.
I like that.
That's great.
I like that a lot. So I'm just thinking about different ways to use that.
I've used that before. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I like that. So I am going to give that a 4 srirachas. I really like that because I can see that as a way of keeping the workspace uncluttered. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Okay.
Right.
I have one as
Cool.
well. Let me jump in. So I had an issue this week to where I have it's going to sit this on me. I have a tool that sits on top of Excel for building of dashboards and things like that. And so in using this tool doesn't allow for VBA. And an issue that I'm running into is things in a text in a list is out of order. And so you need to put things in alphabetical order. And you would think rank, but rank only works on numbers. So what is a solution for this without using VBA? There is no kind of formula out of the box that's settled for this. And so I'd like to walk you through one of several solutions that are out there for this. And this one comes to you by way of Aladdin over at Mr. Excel Forums. One moment.
Whoa.
Good stuff, huh? Well, okay. So we have a problem here, right? And the problem is I have these names. Oz, Jordan, Rick, Nick, blah, blah, blah. And I want them...
Can you make the font bigger?
Sure.
Or the view?
Sure, one moment. I remember how to do this in
See that the drop down where it says 100% at the top? At the oh yeah, that'll work too.
Okay. I had to relearn everything on a Mac. Okay. So I have these here, and they're kind of out of order. There's Oz, Jordan, blah, blah, blah. I got Nick and Bill and Zach and Bob Umlis, a random person named Judy, Zach Barisi, Bill, Nick who's here tonight. So I got all these names, and they're out of order. And I need to create some formula, and that formula needs to put these in the correct sort of order for me. And again, compliments of Aladdin over at Mr. Excel Forums is formula called sum product, and using sum product to be able to do this. So let me just get in here a little bit tighter so you can see a little bit better. So what this is doing is it's taking E3, if it's greater than E3 through E10 plus 0 plus 1 to determine appropriate rank. And so it says, okay, Bill's number 1, order. From a formula perspective, you can then unhide the next piece of this. You can then put your numbers here and just do a very simple VLOOKUP. And here's the thing, as I looked at this one on here, so let's just explain this real quick. Then it's right here. You can hit the F9, I believe. Let's see. Again, remembering the ones and everything on whether or not something's true or false. This is an array formula. So here's why this works. Let's unhide this next piece here and kind of zoom out a little bit. Okay. So as you do this, as you hit the F9 and you look at what's happening in the array, what's the trues and what's the falses, you come to realize that false means that the entry in that very first cell that we did this is later than itself, and true means that it's later than A2, etc. So there's zeros and there's ones, or there's trues and falses, which help to kind of calculate all of that for you. Now the 0 bit at the very end coerces the array constant of logicals to an array of constants, and which the sum product sums.
We may have lost Rick there. I'm not sure. Rick, you still there? This happens sometimes. Usually, even when the audio cuts out for us, it usually records well. But obviously, the Hilton, I think, is where he doesn't like us very much. So, sounded like he came back. Rick, are you there?
Yes. Can you see me?
No.
We could, and then you kind of went out. Your audio was clipping just a little bit. We just see it just says Excel TV on your avatar.
Okay, please move on.
All right, so I actually have a tip.
All right.
This is not an Excel tip, but this is a great tip. And many of you probably, well, actually, if you've listened to this show, you know that Oz was in this movie called Sriracha, and I just watched this movie a few days ago. So here's my tip. My tip is for you. If you have Hulu, you can actually watch Sriracha if you have Hulu. So if you're paying for it, you don't have to buy it. But otherwise, you should go to Amazon, and then I think you can buy it on demand for $3. And this is a great movie, and Oz is in there for a little bit, but he's being the Oz we know and love, and it is I really, be honest, because I could be a little picky about movies. This was a great movie, just in general. So if you want to see an Excel TV star actually being on a real film, not just here, you should check that movie out. So that is my tip, and I feel like you should give it the 5 srirachas it deserves.
Well, okay.
That was a little heavy-handed on my part.
Good movie, and Sriracha fixes anything, I tell you.
Yeah.
And it was a really good movie, so that is a good tip. You're drinking a lot of Sriracha there, Nick?
Not yet, not really. Yeah, it's cerveza. It's all about just beer here, it seems. But
That's good too.
That's my kind of town.
Yeah.
My kind of town.
It doesn't sound bad.
very good, actually.
Just close up on my tip real quick. So, not only is that tip available, and I'll leave the links down on Aladdin, who originally brought that, but there's also a very good way to use COUNTIF, which is something that is in one of Chandu's blogs. I'll leave a link to that as well. And also, there's a possibility you could use code and rank, for some of my conversations with Oz. So, we'll leave some of those processes down below as well.
Yeah. So, So Nick, so Rick, can you say again what was the challenge there? Because so we look at that list of names, why not just sort? I heard you say that you couldn't use VBA, but why not? Why couldn't you sort?
Sure. So this dashboarding tool sits on top of Excel, and in the generation of the dashboard, it creates a Swift file, right? Or an Adobe file. So something you would view in Adobe. So what that means is the person isn't there to hit the refresh button. They're looking at something that's in Flash, right? And so I want the things to calculate in the background, all the formulas and everything to work. The person's not opening up Excel and hitting refresh. They're not opening up Excel and saying sort. So it's a no contact, a user no contact way of getting the answer that you need. So it's a way of simplifying the process instead of somebody having to say sort. How can you build a formula to make that happen automatically?
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, all right. So tell you what, you know what? I am gonna give that a force sriracha because you know it opens up more conversations about why we need. It's like that might be something that you might do one time in a lifetime, but you need it. It's got to work. So is that accurate?
All right, glad to hear it. So so let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. Our next topic is the What's Up section. So what's up? What's happening in the news? What's happening in the world? So I want to bring your attention to something that's happening in April. And every time I look at this thing that's happening in April, it gets better.
Oh, man.
Let me show you this real quick. So we'll do another screen share. Hopefully it's not as dramatic as it was last time. I'm not completely certain. Oh, okay. So go over here to passbaconference.com. So SBA conference is, you know, data and analytics with a Microsoft slant. We'll look at it that way. On April 20th through 22nd, 2015 in Santa Clara, California, if you come over to speakers, you're going to see just a lot of really cool people. You're going to see Jordan Goldmeier is one of the speakers.
My face is up there.
Yeah. Chandu's going to be there. Hold on. Oz is going to be there. Scroll down a little bit further.
We can't see your screen.
You can't see my screen?
It was just not updating, but if you go to speakers...
Now we can see your screen.
Scroll down a little bit further. Rick Grantham's going to be here. And here's the thing. I looked at this today. Kim Poles. Mr. Steve is going to be there.
Yeah.
So, you know, I hear rumors. There's a few other Excel MVPs that might be there as well. So I can't wait till that gets updated as well. But there's going to be a lot of people there. So by all means, make it out to this conference if you can. Hopefully Excel TV is going to have a presence there. So that's going to be a good time.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So that's my news. How about you, Oz?
Well, what's my news? Well, I was awarded Excel MVP by Microsoft. That was really exciting. Very exciting. Here's my
congratulations.
And thanks to you know, Jordan for the nomination and Bill Jellin, and you know, there's a lot of people to thank because I'm really appreciative of that, and it's a big deal. I take this seriously because I'm talking about the community aspect of the award. Yeah. This has been a great community, and I love contributing to it.
And it looks nice on your business card as well, I'm sure.
And this is a draft copy of Guerrilla Data Analysis. And I'm going through and making edits right now. And then they will go to the printer in March, for real, to be available in April. So there's a lot going on in Excel and over here in Southeast Portland.
Awesome. Congratulations, Oz. That's awesome. And Nick, what's up with you?
Only news I have is just what I'm currently developing is Echo Pro. So I've released Echo Lite, which is free for anyone to download. But that only forecasts one line of data. Echo Pro, it'll just be more designed for demand planners, people who have to forecast hundreds or thousands of lines of data. It will utilize macros to make that more efficient, and it will stay with that same theme of simplicity for users. So that the learning curve isn't months; it's days and weeks. Yeah, so that should be ready. I'm aiming for April 2015 release.
April release, awesome. So keep us informed whenever that happens, so that we can make sure we announce that on the news section, and that'd be great.
Sure.
So Jordan, how about you?
Sure, and just to, we can direct users to Echo Lite, while it's out. That's correct, right? That's available.
That's correct. Yeah. So that's
Okay.
free, and that's ready ready to use. That's the macro-free version. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So, I've been busy coming up here. So I'm going to actually just take you through things that are coming up for me if you are in these areas. So if you are in the Ohio area, I'm doing an Advanced Excel for Business workshop. That's in Westchester, Ohio. It's in the Miami Valley. So Columbus, well, that's not really Miami Valley, but we'd love to see you from Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, Indianapolis. Great cities. Come and see me. You can actually go to my website, which we'll talk about in a second, to sign up for that. The next item is Introduction to Analytics in Excel. That's going to be done at the Center for Business Analytics at the University of Cincinnati. That's part of their short courses. And then, as Rick talked about, I just threw these up here, I'm going to be doing 2 breakout sessions at the PASS Business Analytics Conference, so we hope to see you there. That's on creating outstanding spreadsheet models, making better decisions with data. And then at the Big Data Tech Con, which is in Boston, Massachusetts, that's right after, so April 26th through the 27th, I'm going to be doing a talk on Power BI, and then I'm going to be doing more or less the same talk, that making better decisions with data, but because it was a big data conference, I added the word big in there. So not sure if you guys could see that, but that is really what I did. I'm not going to lie to you, but that is actually one of my favorite talks on making better decisions with data, because I think it really, we spend so much time on the tech part, and we often forget that there's this non-technical aspect, that there's cognitive aspects that we need to be aware of. So then the other part of this is that actually I've kicked off my company website, so you can go to Cambia, C-A-M-B-I-A, factor.com. So it's no longer Goldmeier Consulting. Here's my new website. You can check it out. Very, very fancy. There's still a few parts in there if you click around. It says blog, There may be something that says comment here, but we were testing. But the big thing is if you can go to speaking. So you can check out the speaking page if you want to sign up, and then you can register on Eventbrite. So if you're interested in that analytics or in that Advanced Excel for Business course, that one's being run by me versus the other one I said was University of Cincinnati. If you're interested in that or you just want to check up on what I'm doing, it's C-A-M-B-I-A, CambiaFactor.com.
Awesome. Okay, so a lot going on for Jordan there, a lot of speaking in the next few months. So,
yeah.
Hey, where can you find us? Man, we're all over the place. We're on YouTube. We're on Google+. We're pretty much everywhere. And in the last few months, we've actually even opened up a group, so a Google+ group. So go find that. And this Google+ group is really all about Excel education and entertainment, right? So if you're releasing new products, or services in Excel, so Nick, if you hear this,
yeah,
you can go
I am.
Excel Education and Entertainment is Google Plus group, and there's actually a segment there, or a topic area that's all around just Excel products, Excel product releases, or Excel news. Or you can pretty much look at the format of the show, just all these different types of areas that have anything to do with Excel. You can find this all kind of categorized there. So feel free to go over there and join our group. We welcome you. We had a pretty big year in last year, 2014. This time last year, we didn't exist. We didn't kick off for another, month and a half. this time last year. So in that time, we gathered, 1,500 or so YouTube subscribers. So thank you very much for that, and 50,000 or so views, so thank you. And we decided in the middle of last summer that we were going to kick off the website, and so kick off the blog. And so that's brand new. That didn't exist, 6 months ago. So thank you for everybody who's following us there. And I say all that just to say you haven't seen nothing yet. So there's going to be a lot coming up in 2015. There's going to be just a ton of additional ways for you to get engaged in content, engaged in Excel content. So we'll be announcing those over the next few months. But in the meantime, you can follow us over here at Twitter or any of those sorts of places like that. So, lastly, hey, if you're over on Google+, you can ask to join our HOA circle. Just jump on our page and say, hey, I want to join your HOA circle. I'll put a link there tomorrow, just a list so you can put your name there. What that means is that you will get informed. We'll make sure that you get the email whenever we're putting out a new episode. So make sure that you're invited so that you have, it kind of shows up in your feed and you're able to do that. So you can just join us over there. So lastly, it's going to close our show, episode 21. Gosh, season 2. Who'd have thought that? Who'd have thought that? So here we are. Hey, Oz and Jordan, it's been a heck of a journey. So appreciate you being here. And Nick, hey, we've loved having you here from Australia to Colombia and joining us with a violin in the background. You're the only person I've ever met who's made a hotel feel roomy. So that's all.
Right. No, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. My mum will be proud.
All right.
My first TV appearance.
Oh. So, but much continued success. So, this is Bruce Grantham with Jordan Goldmeier and Oz Soleil. And until next time, we'll see you then in 2 weeks.
All right.
All right.